again, my little yarnivores and spiderettes. Fiber Spider back again with the continuation part 2 of the woven filet blanket. Thank you so much for joining me today. And we are going to commence with our piece. Today it's going to be rows 7 through 13, which will complete the full repeat of this project. And as per usual, I'm going to give a big thank you to my testers for this particular pattern. Russ, Buddy, Rose, Spring, and Brenda, thank you ever so much for testing this pattern, which you can find on my Etsy store. Link in the description box down below. And without further ado, let's get to row 7, shall we? All right, so to start things off with row 7. Now, previously, at the beginning of every row, we would chain up 2. However, for row 7, we are going to be starting with an eyelet, which means we need an additional chain. So, chain up 3. So that's going to count as our double crochet and our chain 1 space. And instead of just skipping this first stitch, we're going to skip the first and the second, going into that third stitch with a double. So we're starting off with an eyelet, very much like we did down here on row number 1. So continuing on with 10 more double crochets for a total of 11. And that is what we're going to do for the remainder of row 7. So it's just groupings of 11 separated by chain 1 spaces. So we're starting in today nice and easy for the row. So I've already got 5. And I hope all of you are doing really well today, and I want to thank you for joining me. I really, really love this project, and I hope you guys do too. So I already have, let me see, 2, 4, 6, 8. This will be 9, 10, and 11, yes. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. Perfect. Okay, onwards. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double into the next, and 10 more for a total of 11. So I already got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and should be 11. I always double count if I can at all help it. It's one of my, quirks, shall we say. 2, 4, 6, 8, and 11. Perfect. Anything that saves grief in the long run, I do it. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double into the next 11. So that's 2, 3. Nope, sorry, that's 2. This is 3. There we go. And 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and should be 11. 2, 4, 6, 8. Yep, good. Okay. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double in the next 11. It's all about shifting things over this way, that way, and every which way. Although this is not the which way filet. No, this is the woven filet. Okay, so I already got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, yes. 2, 4, 6, 8, yep, okay, on we go. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double into the next 11. It was just very straightforward kind of row today to begin with. Okay, so I've got 4, 5, 6, 7, and of course I have a tangle. Not to worry. Not to worry. Sorry. Bad puns. Okay, 2, 4, so I've got 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, yes. 2, 4, 6, 8, yep, good, okay. Chain 1, skip a stitch, and do the next 11. It's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And at this point, you should have 2 stitches left over. So chain 1, skip a stitch, and then double crochet into that last stitch so that we have an eyelet at the edge, the end edge of the row, as well as the beginning. Okay, so it's just a series of 11 doubles separated by chain 1 spaces. And there you go. That is row 7. Okay, row 8. Start off the row by chaining up 2. It's going to be a solid stitch on the edge here. So chain 2, turn the work, and double into the next 2 stitches for a total of 3 on this end. So into that chain space, 1 more. So we've got our 3 doubles. Okay, then chain 1, skip a stitch, double into the next 11. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double into the next 7. So for this row, it is repeating 3, 11, 7 until we almost reach the end of the row. not quite, but almost reaching the end. So I just need 4 more. So I've got 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okie dokie. So, Yes, so I've got my 3, 11, and 7. So I just keep repeating that. So back to square one, chain 1, skip a stitch, double into the next 3. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double into the next 11. Okay, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Okay. We're getting there. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double into the next 7. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay. Chain 1, skip a stitch, next 3, because we're starting over with 3, 11, 7. So skipping that stitch, doubling to the next 3. Okay, so I've got the 3, then I need 11. So chain 1, skip a stitch. Let's do 11. Okay, so I've already got 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Almost. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double into the next 7. Okay, so it's 2 and 3 and 4, 5, 6, and 7. So yeah, you would just keep on doing 3, 11, 7, 3, 11, 7 until you reach the last 4 stitches. So we've got 1, 2, the space counts as a stitch, and then the last double counts as a stitch. So this is technically 4 stitches. So chain 1, skip a stitch, and then double into the last 3 stitches. So into that double, into the chain space, and into the top of this last double. Or you could always just do 2 doubles into the chain space, but I think this looks a little bit neater. Personal opinion. There you go. So that is the end of row 8. All right, so row 9, start off by chaining up 2 and turning your work. There we go. So for row 9, the beginning is going to be a grouping of 5, 3, and 11, and then it's going to swap off into our repeat. So start off with the 5. We already have our 1. Skip that first, going to the next. So that's 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. Chain 1, skip a stitch, then double crochet into the next 3. There we go. Okay, chain 1, skip a stitch, and then into the next 11 stitches. So skip and then go in. Okay, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and should be 11. 2, 4, 6, 8, and 11. Perfect. Okay, so we started off with 5, 3, and 11. Now for the majority of the remainder of the row, it's going to continue on as 7, 3, 11. Now the reason why the first number is different is because, again, the pattern, it's offset, so it needs to change as we progress. So chain 1, skip a stitch, double into the next 7. So skip and then double, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, then chain 1, skip a stitch, double into the next 3. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double into the next 11. Okay, already we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Okay, so that is 1 repeat done. We're going to do it again, 7, 3, 11. So chain 1, skip a stitch, and 7 doubles. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, we've got our 7. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double into the next 3. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double into the next 11. Okay, so we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So you would keep doing your 7, 3, 11, etc., until you have reached the last 6 stitches. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So when you reach the last 6, chain 1, skip a stitch, and then double into the last 5. So that's 2, 3, 4, and last but not least, very end. Wants to give me trouble, but I'll give it trouble. There we go. Oh, I almost had it. Hey, it happens even to me. You are not alone. And there we go. All right, so I've got my 5 at the end. So that is the end of row 9. Yes, I was looking for my row counter. There we go, end of row 9. Ta-da! Okay, row 10. Start off as per usual, chain up 2 and turn your work. Okay. Skip that first stitch, go into the next 6 for a total of 7. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. All right, for the rest of the row, it's going to be relatively easy because it's just groupings of 11 until we are almost at the end. So you get a little bit of a vacation here. So chain 1, skip a stitch, double into the next 11 stitches. Every now and then you deserve a little bit of a break from having to remember, certain repetitions every now and then. But I have to keep you on your toes. Next row, yeah, it'll be something different. All right, so I already have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, yes. 2, 4, 6, 8, yep, okay. Rock on. All right, from here, chain 1, skip a stitch, 11 in the next. Okay, that's 4 already. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Okay. All right. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double in the next 11. And just like the beginning, the end is going to be a little bit different. So that's why I'm doing the entire row with you guys. I like to be thorough. It's like my mantra. So I've already got 5, 6, missed apply, 7, 8, 9, 10, and should be 11. See, occasionally you get a little bit of a wonky bit of yarn, but we can work around that. Okay. Scooch our work right along. Okay, I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, and 11. Perfect. Okie doke. So then again, chain 1, skip a stitch, and then 11 doubles. Okay, that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Okay, I think I've got one more to go, and then we do the ending. So chain 1, skip a stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. All right, so at this point, we should have, if I did this correctly, we should have a total of 8 stitches left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. Okay, so chain 1, skip a stitch, and then double into the last 7 stitches. Okay, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and last but not least, 7. There we go. Okay, so, excuse me, that is the end of row 10. Now, as you can see, we have sort of diamonds forming, or squares. It depends on how you look at it. And there you go. So that is the end of row 10. All right, row 11. Start off by chaining up 2 and turning your work. Okay, so we have our 1 double crochet. We need 8 more for a total of 9. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay. All right. Then a grouping of 7, and then a grouping of 3, and then we can get into the repeats. So let's do our grouping of 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double into the next 3. Okie doke. So we already did our 9, 7, and 3. Now for the rest of the row, it's going to be a bunch of groupings of 11, 7, and 3 till we approach the end of the row. So that being said, chain 1, skip a stitch, and then start our repeat with 11. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Okay. Chain 1, skip a stitch, then a grouping of 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay. Then chain 1, skip a space, and then a grouping of 3. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so we did our 11, 7, and 3. Let's do it again. Chain 1, skip a stitch, and 11. All right, so I've already got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Okay, then a grouping of 7, and then a grouping of 3. We're getting there. Okay, chain 1, skip a stitch, grouping of 7. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Chain 1, skip a stitch, and then do a grouping of 3. And so you would keep on doing your 11, 7, 3, 11, 7, 3, etc., until the last 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect. I love it when the numbers line up, don't you? So at this point, chain 1, skip a stitch, and then double into the last 5 stitches. And one more at the very end. Very easy to miss this last stitch. Kind of blends right in. It's a sneaky little booger, but as long as you double check and double count, you can't go wrong. There you go. We've got our 5 at the end. Okay, so that is the end of row 11, and we shall proceed. Row 12. All right, so for row 12, as per usual, start off by chaining up 2, turn your work, and the beginning of this sequence, it's going to start with 3, 7, and 3, and then we get to the repeat. So after doing your first double, skip that first, going into the next, and then one more for a total of 3 doubles to begin with. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double into the next 7. So we already got 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Yep, okay. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double into the next 3. Okie dokie. And let me get this little pesky knot out of here, please. Just love it when that happens. It's like, doesn't the yarn know I'm trying to film here? Okay, so we have our initial setup of 3, 7, and 3. Then we get into our repeat, which is 11, 7, 3. So chain 1, skip a stitch, go in with 11 doubles. Okay, so I've already got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Okie doke. 2, 4, 6, 8. Perfect. Okay, then chain 1, skip 1, and 7 to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay. And then, excuse me, chain 1, skip 1, and 3 doubles. And that is how you would keep on keeping on for the rest of this row. 11, 7, 3, 11, 7, 3, etc., until we almost reach the end. Let's do our repeat here. So chain 1, skip 1, 11. Okay, so we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, I believe. 2, 4, 6, 8. Yep, okie doke. Okay, chain 1, skip a stitch, then double into the next 7. Okay, so that's 3. 4, 5, 6, and 7. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double into the next 3. All right, and as per usual, I have a knot. Of course I do. There we go. All right, so you want to keep on doing your groupings of 11, 7, 3, 11, 7, 3, etc. until you reach the last 12 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So when you reach the last 12, chain 1, skip a stitch, and double into the last 11. And there you go for the finishing up of this row. And then, yes, you guessed it, we only have one more row for the repeat of this pattern. I knew this day would come. It's always a beautiful thing when things come together. Okay, I'm almost there. And get into that last double. You can do it. There we go. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of fiddling. But there we go. So that is the last 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. Awesome sauce. All right, one more row to go. Okay, row 13. Row 13 is essentially row 7, but hey, that's what I'm here for, right? So for row 13, we're going to start with an eyelet space. So instead of chaining up 2, chain up 3. And turn your work, because this is going to count as our double crochet and chain 1 space all wrapped up into one, like a burrito. Why not? So skipping that first and the second, going into that third with a double, and then 10 more for a total of 11. So this row is also, in essence, the same as row 1, but because on row 1 we were working in chains as opposed to working within stitches, I decided to write out this row as row 13. So instead of repeating rows 1 through 12, you're repeating 2 through 13. Say that 5 times fast. 2 through 13, 2 through 13. Yeah. Anyway, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. All right. Yes. 2, 4, 6, 8. Yep, I've got 11. Perfect. And then I do another eyelet. So chain 1, skip a stitch, double into the next 11, and so forth until we reach the very end. And that is, well, in essence, that is the whole pattern. And so you just keep repeating 2 through 13 until your piece is long enough. And I think that this swatch gives a good idea of how the repeat works and what you need to do as far as the variations of beginning and ending, and then the fun stuff in the middle with the repeat. So I already have, let me see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, and 11. chain 1, skip a stitch, double into the next 11. Every now and then you come across one of these rows where it's pretty much easy street. It's just groupings of 11 separated by your eyelets. It's nice to have a bit of a break every now and again. Now, the piece that I'm currently doing, this swatch, if you will, would be, I think, nice for perhaps a rather wide scarf or a wrap, maybe. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8. Nine, 10, and 11. Chain 1, skip a stitch, and proceed. Now, as far as how many repeats, how many multiples of 24 you would need for a specific size, there are so many factors that come into play. What yarn you're using, what the weight of the yarn is, what hook size that you're using, and of course, your gauge or your tension. Those factors really do come into play. Now, I do get asked this fairly often of, how many multiples would I need, or how much yarn would I need in order to do, X size blanket? Well, unfortunately, that is really hard to say because, for instance, you and I could be using the same hook and the same yarn and the same pattern and end up with 2 different sized pieces. It wouldn't be dramatic, but they would be different. So let's see, I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double into the next. So even though we're using the same tools and the same yarn, we could end up with different sizes because my tension may be a little bit looser or a little bit tighter than yours. So ballpark, it's like a rough guesstimate as to how much you would actually need. That is why I strongly recommend, when you are purchasing yarn for a specific project, buy enough, quote unquote enough, which is perhaps, over buy what you think you're going to need. And then if you don't use it all, well, hang on to your receipt and return, what you can. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 11. Perfect. Chain 1, skip a stitch, and double into the next. Or you could always use a yarn that doesn't have any dye-lot. Red Heart Super Saver is one of those, provided, of course, that is not it's not a variegated yarn or an ombre yarn where it's a solid Red Heart Super Saver. Those do not have dye-lots. So if you run out, yes, you can get more, not a problem. Otherwise, yeah, getting the same dye-lot can be an issue. Also, as far as what kind of yarn, for filet work, personally, I think that solids look best. If it's a quick changing variegated, I think it looks a little bit choppy and distracts you from the filet pattern work. So just, a couple of words of wisdom and opinion thrown in. So let's see, I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. Ooh, we are there. We are at the end. So at the end, you should have 2 stitches left. Chain 1, skip a stitch, and double into the last stitch. Oh, yes. There we go. Da, 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 da. Voila. And there you have it. That is the full repeat of our work. So as you can see, we have the strips that, look as if they're woven together. And then we have these little squares. And, if you just keep going on and on and on, ad infinitum, rows 2 through 13, the pattern will continue to work its way up and look oh so lovely. Alrighty, my dears, so that is going to conclude my tutorial on the woven filet blanket. I want to thank you ever so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed it, and of course, if you did, please give a little thumbs up button down below. You know that I appreciate your appreciation as always. And I also would like to extend my appreciation to Russ, Buddy, Rose, Spring, and Brenda for testing out this pattern. Thank you very, very much. And again, if you're interested in getting a copy of your own, visit my Etsy store in the link down below. And thank you. Yes, everybody. Really hope that you like this. I think this is a great, great project. And, as you keep going, you can sort of read where you're at within your stitches, so you don't have to keep looking at the pattern, indefinitely. I found myself, figuring out where I needed to be as I went on. It took me a number of repeats in order to get to that point, but it is possible. At any rate, thank you for joining me, and you know what to do until next time, right? I want all of you to stay inspired, stay caffeinated, stay stitching, and please stay safe. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I will see you in my next video. Bye for now, everybody, and have a great day.